Welcome to Embody with MM. Thank you for helping me grow my channel. Remember to subscribe and also for your donations and to my patrons who sponsor me. So I thought about putting the word back pain in the title because that seems to be a big grabber on YouTube. But this is a practice that I do several times a week for maintenance for my back and spine, particularly because of my sciatic issues. It's very simple, it's very accessible. I refer to it as the somatic cross body back bend because what it's going to help us to do is to balance out the muscles in the upper and lower body. And if you take just a moment, if you're on the floor with me and crawl around, you can go backward, you can go forward. You'll notice how we crawl is that whichever arm is forward, the opposite leg is forward. That's how we learn to crawl. So that's the way our body tends to balance our muscles is from the left shoulder to the right hip and from the right shoulder to the left hip. So that's why we learn to crawl before we walk, although walking is the same thing. If you've ever tried to walk taking the same side arm and leg forward, it feels pretty awkward. You can walk around and do that right now while I'm talking if you want. So you see how our brain likes to balance in a cross pattern. So a lot of times back pain can be attributed to these muscles not firing correctly, so not contracting and releasing, let's say, in this pattern of cross body. So this is a really simple one that we'll do, but very profound to help to both physically and I like to say energetically. Things get jammed up in our spine, and it'll help to release any physical issues with the muscles sticking, those gripper muscles, but also will help energetically to release some of that energy that we hold in our backside because the backside is all about protection. So let's start by coming down onto the floor. We will be on the floor on our abdomen the whole time. If you want some extra padding, I have carpet here, so I'm all set, but you may want to do that. First thing I'd ask you to do is just come onto the ground and cross opposite hand to elbow. You can take your forehead down on your arm if that's comfortable, just a light lift in the chest. And then bend your knees and take your feet up towards the sky. Just rock your legs side to side. Maybe even take your legs in circles. We're simply finding our way onto the floor. And just like we do on the backside, we're landing and locating. But landing from the front side. Letting your front body, and sometimes a little bit of movement feels nice. You might take your legs down, shift the hips side to side, your pelvis, and notice your breath. I always appreciate the feeling of the breath on the ground, the relationship when we're on our front side. So you can take a second to just get into that relationship. Notice the way as you breathe in, your body expands and it meets the floor with some resistance. And as you breathe out, you can feel the way the body just wants to release back down, almost as if the floor is coming up into your body. And we use the ground to feel, so you can tell a little bit more about where you're breathing. Are you feeling that resistance on the inhale in the abdomen, the rib cage, the upper body? And keep landing. Let the whole front side of your body release onto the floor. So one thing you want to check too is your legs. And what typically happens is that if we go into our natural position, the heels will fall out. I'm going to look up for a second. You can look too. Your heels will fall out and your legs are actually then in a rotational position. The hips are rotating out, or sometimes the toes will point out. What we want to try to do is get to a position where the tops of the feet are on the floor. If for any reason your feet cramp up, come out of that. But we want to really feel the centers of the thighs resting on the ground. And then we're going to start by taking our left arm into a little bit of an L shape or a V shape. Take your right arm down to your side and let the palm face up and the back of the hand relax. And you're going to come on to your left cheek. This is the first position. Allow yourself again to land and just locate. Locate where you are in the room, where your body is on the ground. You land into the parts of the body that are touching the ground. And then begin to feel the area around your upper left shoulder blade. Think of your upper left side of the back. Notice the next time you breathe in. And as you breathe in, lift the weight of your left arm without the palm coming off the floor, just the elbow and the upper arm and the lower arm. Lift it up as you breathe in, as high as you can go. And as you breathe out, come back down. Going up and down at the same pace, slow and smoothly. And notice where you feel muscles shortening or engaging. What muscles are you recruiting to lift the arm? So what I often see in this one is, and you can try this, is if you push into the palm of your hand to lift your elbow up, that's going to be a whole different feeling. You're using more of your arm muscles. Do your best to keep your arm muscles relaxed and keep visualizing the shoulder blade in the left side and see if you can lift the weight of the arm from the upper back. It may not go as high, but you can sense that you're no longer pushing the hand into the ground. The relationship of the hand to the ground is soft and forgiving. And you might even take it up as high as you can go and just hold there for a few breaths. Noticing that bit of tightness through the left side of the neck, the left shoulder. And take it down and let it relax. Notice the head position and where your gaze is, somewhere towards your left arm. Keep that gaze in the same direction. And imagine if you had a pole coming out of the top of your head. That pole is reaching forward, so in my case, towards my dog. And now as you take a breath in, just slowly lift your chest first and let the head follow off the ground. So I'm coming into a low back bend, but just the head and chest slightly lifting. I'm not changing the position of my neck or the gaze. As I breathe out, come back down, let the right cheek relax and release the neck. So we lift up on inhale and come down on exhale. Doing your best to keep the neck in a neutral position. So not lifting just the head and leaving the chest down. That's why I like to think of initiating this movement from the heart. And let your head reach forward and your heart lift up. And sense, again, what muscles are you recruiting? Those muscles in the neck itself. So we watch what happens. We also want to watch what we don't want to happen, which is, can you lift just the neck and the head and let the muscles in the shoulders stay more relaxed? And especially are the muscles in the low back and buttocks staying relaxed? Because those do not need to activate yet. So you're just scanning your body from top to bottom. Can you lift your head and just use those muscles in the neck? And you might even take it up and hold it. If any parts of this movement don't feel good, then skip them. And the other thing with the head, when we do the head, is I like to play with inhaling up and then turning. So now I'm going to turn all the way and come down onto the left cheek. And then inhale back up and come on to the right cheek. So what I find for myself is that if I keep my gaze towards the left elbow, which is the way this is traditionally taught, I don't find, when I say find my flaws, but if I do the head turning, that's where I start to notice myself tightening muscles in my buttocks. So for me, the muscle coordination, or the discoordination, I should say, the stuckness, is when I start to turn my head. So it's just something you can play with. Lifting from the chest, remembering to release all the way down. So we're still trying to keep everything quiet and relaxed below the belt. That's something you'll notice. If you carry tension in your low back all the time, then it might be that just lifting your head up it's like you're trying to lift your head from your low back. That's the way the muscles are sending the signal, and we want to recreate that communication to say, muscles in the low back, you do not need to do this work. And then come down, relax. We're going to put the next part into it. So now you're going to take the left hand and put it underneath the right cheek, the head, wherever it's most comfortable for you. Excuse me, I have a microphone on, so it might look a little awkward. And now visualize the space all the way from your head, like you're creating a triangle through your elbow to your shoulder, and your upper back. And that's all one unit, as if your cheek or your temple is connected to your hand. And now take a breath in, float the chest up, the elbow, and reach the head forward. And breathe out, come back down. We're attempting to come straight up, as opposed to sometimes you'll see people try to turn. I prefer to do this, it's not a rotational movement so much as a straight lift, especially until you know for sure that you're engaging from the upper back. And we begin to see what's happening below too. But take a few first and notice what's happening above. Can you feel just that left shoulder? One of the things I know for me is some of my grabber muscles are in my right shoulder. So I have to tell my right shoulder to be quiet, that it doesn't have to participate. Keep that arm relaxed. Just the left shoulder and upper back. But then take a gaze down below the belt. Notice if you feel any tightening or muscle engagement in the lower back, and if so, which side. So what we may begin to feel is a tightening or an engagement in the right buttocks and maybe even the right leg or the right side of the low back. What you might feel is tightness through the left side or maybe even both sides. That left side is on holiday. So if that's happening, shake out your hips again, jelly roll your legs, let it all relax, and see if you can focus on feeling how lifting from the left is going to request the right side of the low back and buttocks and leg to start to engage. That's the message we want to send from left shoulder to right hip. And you might take the next one and even hold it up there. If you liked the head turn, this can be done with the head turning. You inhale up, come down on your left cheek on the hand. And sometimes that's just another way of releasing the stuckness. These are all very official terms that I use. The other thing you can do, so many options, is to purposely, if you're getting that butt cheek confusion, see if when you're lifting the arm and the head, you can squeeze the muscles in just the right butt cheek or even press the top of the right thigh into the ground. That's going to help you to start to feel that coordination of left shoulder to right hip engaging. So to take that conscious awareness of controlling your muscles, left to right, left upper to right lower. Press the right leg into the ground. Squeeze the right butt cheek and release it. Sometimes it's on the hold too, where I can get more control and relax on the hold. I'll make sure the left buttocks and leg and right arm are relaxed, and to feel that cross body engagement from left shoulder to right hip. That relaxation from right shoulder to left hip. And then come down, let it all go. Now feel yourself from the right toes all the way up through the hip. And if your legs did roll in or out, this is where I might ask you to make sure that at least the top of the right foot is on the ground. So all 5 toenails are touching the ground. And imagine just your big toe and reach your big toe back away from your body and see how even that begins to engage the leg. And the other thing is it's going to keep us from bending our knee. So think of reaching the leg long and then lifting it up. And we do that on an inhale. And then slowly release it down. So again, setting that pace that the inhale lifts at the same speed that the exhale releases. So sticking with the idea of feeling the muscles go all the way from relaxed to fully engaged. And from fully engaged back to completely relaxed. And this in particular is a really good one for low back because we're also working on strengthening the hamstrings and the gluteal muscles, which tend to be weak. Everybody says they're tight. The hamstrings are tight. I hear that all the time. That's why your back is bad. Usually I find they might be tight, but they're also weak. So just working that through that. Making sure it's releasing when you come down. And sometimes you might feel that crossbody pattern lifting your right leg is your left shoulder tightening up. And that's okay. Just be aware of that. But make sure that your right shoulder isn't tightening up. All right, take one more lift. You might even hold it there for a few breaths. Just let your mind surround yourself in your right hip, your buttocks, the back of the leg, those hamstrings are going, maybe even your calf. And then let it come down. Shake it out, especially if you're getting any cramps. Pause the video. I've seen it all before. They're all common. Just normalize it. And now we're going to put those two movements together. So as you breathe in, you're going to lift the head, the arm, and the chest, and then the right leg. And it may really help to picture your backside of your body, particularly the left shoulder and the right hip, or I like to use the bony landmarks of the left shoulder blade and the right hip bone. And even imagine, if you can, where that signal, that sensory motor signal is coming from your brain through your spine, right? That's your central nervous system. And then it's got to go out to the periphery of your body. And somewhere it's telling that signal to go from left, cross through your spine over to the right. So imagine that crossover pattern, that communication wide open between the left upper body and the right lower body. Also check in that your right shoulder, left buttocks and hip are staying relaxed. And if they're trying to jump into the game, that tells you a lot. I could guess from that, if the left low back is trying to engage, that that's your uncomfortable side. You may experience pain there perhaps, if you do have a side that causes you more grief. That's my case. I have to remind that left side to be quiet, to just rest. And you might even take one of these up and hover for a few breaths to really sense the connection of the muscles that have been engaged, that you're voluntarily recruiting, taking that control back, and then releasing the muscles that can release the right upper body to the left lower body. And then relax it all the way down. And we're done with side one. I'm taking a really slow approach. I can do this whole thing in 5 minutes, and sometimes I do, but it's just important that you do it. So in between, if it suffices you to just bend your knees and rock your legs again, you can do that. If you feel like you need a little bit more stretching through the back, you're welcome to press into your hands and either come into what we call like a child's pose position, or even just move back and forth. So instead of staying in the child's pose. The other thing to do that I do a lot in somatics, and I'm going to be switching sides, so I'll come this way, is to roll onto your side into a fetal curl. And here you can also create more space in that back line, because we were just engaging all those muscles in the back side of the body. So wherever you like to be, on your side, just finding that roundedness of the spine, what we call flexion. And we'll take a quiet minute to just be present in that space, noticing the two sides of your body, particularly your back body. If you are in a child's pose or anywhere other than on your abdomen in the prone pose, stretch yourself out again. And we'll pause and land and locate. Opposite hand to elbow forward, forehead on your arm. So coming back to that center, where you can even see like a plumb line coming up the center of your body from the crown of the head all the way through the neck and the spine. coming out the base of the spine and running through the middle of the legs. Let yourself feel the space of your body from that plumb line, just noticing the differences between right and left. Do you have more of awareness of the left shoulder area versus the right shoulder area, or the right hip versus the left hip? Does one leg feel longer or shorter, lighter or heavier? We're just noticing. And also giving yourself a moment to be present in your breath again. Just the physical activity may have changed your breath. So coming back into that space of soothing breath. Nice, full, complete breath in. Feeling the way your body presses into the ground. And soothing, easy breath out. The way you just receive the ground into the front body. And then we'll get ready to do side 2. So this time it'll be the left arm coming down to your side, and just let the palm face up. That's usually the most comfortable space for the shoulder. Let the head of the arm bone, the shoulder drop. Take your right arm out to your right side in sort of a V position, and sometimes you got to play. You don't want the elbow too far down, not way overhead either. But I usually find if the elbow is about at the height of my ear. But see what works for you. Resting onto your left cheek. Give your body a moment to just adjust. Give your brain a moment to adjust to this new position. And then feel your whole right arm from the tips of the fingers all the way in through the shoulder blade. Sense the right shoulder blade on your back. And when you're ready and you're taking your breath in, lift just the right elbow off the floor so the hand stays on the ground. And as you breathe out, a slow and steady release to the ground. Starting with just activating the muscles in the right shoulder. And check in with yourself that you're not using the muscles in the right arm to lift the arm. That may sound interesting, but you'll know because you'll be pushing your hand into the ground. And you'll feel more tightening through the upper arm particularly. So can you keep the arm muscles more relaxed? Think of lifting from your shoulder blade. And I can typically tell when I'm doing it right, not only because I'm not pushing my hand down, but because I can't lift as high. My shoulder blade doesn't quite have the range of mobility to lift, that if I lift with my elbow, I can go way up. But my shoulder blade is more limited, that upper back, but that's okay. I want those muscles to be given a chance to engage. Connecting with that space of upper right back. You might even hold it there for a few breaths, breathe through it. Check to see that the left shoulder isn't trying to jump in the game, that it's staying relaxed. And then let the right elbow come down. Keeping the neck long and continuing to gaze towards the right elbow. Feel maybe where your collarbones are, the center of your chest. And as you take a breath in, it's like the breath just floats. There's a buoyancy to the breath, and it's going to float your chest up and take the crown of the head forward. So not lifting just the head and changing the position of the neck so much. Keep the neck more in a neutral position. We're turning, but it's long. And lift from the chest. Breathe in and lift. Breathe out and let go. First, connect yourself with the sensation of the muscles that are lifting the weight of your head. Roughly 12 pounds here, coming up. Think about holding a 10-pound bag of flour, right? So letting those muscles lift you up, but then letting it release. The left cheek comes back down on the ground. I always appreciate being on my left cheek because when you're down there, if you pause for a little bit longer in the relaxation state, you might even be able to feel your heartbeat on the left side. But you can also, as you come up, turn the head and come down onto the right cheek. It's just another way to work with these stuck muscles, or what we call in somatics sensory motor amnesia. They don't listen to our brain anymore. They get in a stuck position. So turning from side to side. And this typically happens because we're habitual in nature. And habitual is usually a good thing because it saves energy, can save time too. But in the muscles, it's not always a good thing because we tend to recruit or use the same muscles over and over again. So we want to have this freedom of using different muscles for the same movement. So we're really focusing on neck muscles, chest coming forward. And the next time you land on your left cheek, just relax. Maybe you noticed, is anything tightening up below as you were lifting just your head and neck? So again, I've seen it all the time where people will lift their head and their butt cheeks are clenching. And I will tease and say, you're trying to lift your head from your butt. So it's just these patterns that when we use muscles too often, not purposely, they're there and we have to break them down. So let's do the next part together. You're going to slide the right hand in underneath your cheek, maybe by your temple, wherever it's comfortable for you. And feel that continuation like a triangle of energy from the hand, the palm resting on the ground out to the elbow up to the shoulder blade. So it always helps to visualize these places in your mind first to help them. That's going to aid in the muscles turning on and off. And then on an inhalation, lift up as high as you can comfortably. And as you breathe out, slow down. That's another thing I'll see is somebody will come up high, nice and slow, and then they quick drop down. So part of the work, recognize, is in the coming down, and you want to feel yourself release to 75%, 50%, and all the way to 25%, and then that complete release. So connecting first with the upper right back shoulder blade area. The neck, you'll notice how the right side of the neck is shorter. Left side staying relaxed. If you want to try a few of those head turns, you can do it here too. Turning onto your right cheek, coming down. Up to you. Sometimes that's just another way to release. But then definitely check in with the space of your body below your waist. What's going on down there? Is there any feeling of sensation of muscles tightening in either of the butt cheeks? And we're going to hope it's the left, but it could be the right if you have butt cheek confusion. So if we're feeling that confusion, perhaps as you lift up next time, you can even place a hand on your left butt cheek. See if you can squeeze your left butt cheek and release it. The other way to get that left side to engage is to push the thigh bone slightly into the ground, the top of the thigh. So coordinate the engagement of right shoulder and left hip area. Let left shoulder and right hip stay on their beach vacation. And you may notice it's easier to return on muscles on one side than the other. Take a few more. Find that space to just hover. The hover will often give you the opportunity to engage a little bit more fully through the left butt cheek, but also release more completely through the left shoulder and right hip. And come down, nice and easy, complete release. So now we're going to change the focus into the left leg. So feel yourself. Feel the space of your body from the left toes all the way up through the rim of the hip. If you had a belt on, just what do you feel there now? Back of the calf, the thigh, buttocks. And then reach the big toe away from your body towards the back of your mat or your towel, towards my dog, which is going to be in the way. And maybe even press the thigh bone slightly into the ground so you can feel, what does it feel like to have those muscles in the left leg engage and in the buttocks? And so we can use the floor to create that force. You know, you can push into the floor and you can reach. But then ultimately we're going to create the force by lifting away from the floor, right? That's when gravity is going to be what helps us to engage. So when you're ready, lift the leg up, reach it long first, lift it up. So we don't want to bend the knee. Lift it up as far as you can go as you're reaching back, and then come back down. So I think I mentioned earlier that sometimes lifting the shoulder, you'll feel the waist go or the buttocks go, right? The hamstrings. The other thing you want to notice is, can you lift up the leg without tightening the shoulder? So if you're a person who carries more tightness through your shoulders, then we should be able to lift the leg without the shoulder trying to lift the leg. Just like we want to be able to lift the head without the low back having to do the work, we should be able to lift the left leg without the right shoulder doing the work. So we just watch these things too. The more control we can take. And you can lift that leg up, hold it for a few breaths. I'd like to think of focusing on lifting from the inner thigh so that we're not taking the legs. So if the legs like way out to the side or toes turned in or out, lift that inner thigh so you get the full engagement through the back line of the left leg and buttocks, low back. Let it come down, shake it out. And we shake both legs and hips. And then we're going to put that together. So sense the triangle shape of your right arm all the way into your shoulder blade, head and neck, and then the length of the left leg all the way through the top of the waist. Visualize first. See yourself in these spaces, particularly your right shoulder blade, your right hip. As you breathe in, lift. Breathe out, release. And I know we could do this and think I'm going way too slow for you, and maybe you're putting your TV on or something. It really defeats the purpose with somatics. You can do regular exercises that way, but somatics is all about going into this inner body, what we sometimes refer to as interoception, and voluntarily turning on and off these muscles, which takes a lot of conscious awareness. And it can be in movement, lifting and releasing with the breath. You might also choose to take a space and hold, and that's opportunity to feel that crossover pattern from right shoulder to left hip, that active engagement, but also can you relax the left shoulder and right leg and buttocks. So you are the expert in your body, and the only way you find what's going to work for you, more movement, more holding, is by playing, by doing different things. And know that whatever you find today may be different later in the week. I encourage you to change it up, to do things differently. Let's take one more if you'd like. And then a complete relax. Slide your arm down. This time we're going to roll right over onto our backside. Take your time. It's a one movement practice day today. Feel free to hug your knees into your chest. And you can hug and you can rock the legs side to side or make some gentle circles with the kneecaps. You could hold the backs of the thighs as well. Sort of massaging out your low back. So back bends, what we call extension of the spine, asks us to engage the back line, the bodies and the muscles in the back side of the body. So now we're giving them an opportunity to release and relax fully, to feel the ground underneath them. Nice easy stretching. Another thing that often feels good after that is if you place the feet on the floor, maybe slightly wider than hip distance, arms out to the sides, and just simple windshield wipers. As you breathe out, you can let your legs fall to one side. Breathe in and come back up. Breathe out, let the legs fall to the other side. And because we also work with the neck with that one, I like to include the neck on this. As the legs fall to the right, you can let your head fall to the left. Inhaling, knees back up. Exhale, just let them fall with gravity. Head turns to the right as the legs go to the left. You can also add a little more stretching for the side body and the spine. Legs fall to the right. Slide the left arm overhead. Inhale back to center. Right arm reaches. Legs fall to the left. So coordinating the pelvis rolling to the right, the head rolling to the left, so looking in opposite directions. And anywhere along this movement pattern that you would want to just stop and be still, you're welcome to. And coming back to a center position. We're going to pause just for a moment to release, relax. You can keep your knees bent or straighten your legs if it's comfortable. Wherever you feel like, so if you can get more of your back side connected to the earth with knees bent, you might want to consider doing that. If you can take your legs out and the low back doesn't pop off the floor and arch, then you can do that as well, because then you do have your calves touching the floor, a little bit more of the back line of the legs. But just letting that back side that we were just very consciously working and engaging and gratefully strengthening and releasing, just giving it permission to completely melt into the ground. And come back into your breath, feeling the sensations of the breath as they now move the back side of your body and the relationship to the earth. Do you feel your shoulder blades moving as you breathe in and out? Maybe even the rib cage. Sensing the hips, the pelvis. And let's take a little more focus this time on the breathing out. Without forcing anything, just allow your breath out to be a little bit longer and slower. And your breath in just breathes you. And the breath out feels like you're allowing the ground to come up around your back body to completely support it. Are there any places in the back body that you haven't released yet? And if you find them, particularly the low back area or maybe a shoulder, the neck, breathe in and notice those spaces. And breathe out. Just send them an invitation to relax into the ground. Coming out of our rest, although always give yourself the option to stay there longer if that suits you. And roll to one side first. Come into that fetal curl, maybe even rock your body a bit. I find it's really important if we're going to engage the back line, especially if it's not something we do very often, which most of us don't because we tend to slump forward, so the back body's long and weak. So that's another story for another day. But that when we ask these muscles to perform like that, then we give them the opportunity to relax. Just as important to make sure they're not staying gripped. And then you can come up. So that is the somatic crossbody back bend, and really a great one to do on a regular basis for maintenance. You'll find it'll improve your posture. It really helps walking gait a lot. You'll start to feel the way those muscles in your hamstrings and your glutes are firing when you're walking, like opposite sides. You'll start to catch that even in your day-to-day activities. So thanks for joining me today. Peace, joy, love, and light.